Hailey, thank you so much for being here on Spark TV. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you very much for having me.
So let's get started by telling everybody what your business is, what it does. Vacayit, talk to me.
Okay, so tourism marketing is predominantly visual. So if we look at how we promote destinations, it's usually through imagery or videos or visually heavy written content. And so what we're doing is we're creating an audio guide that allows people who are blind and low vision to be able to experience the world, because right now they're pretty well left out of the Australian tourism market and kind of the rest of the world as well, really.
Holy crap, that's awesome. How did you, is that this a cause that's close to your heart? Like why did you get started on this?
Well, I was actually never really in the space before this. My degree is in psychology and tourism, and I had an opportunity to present something to the World Tourism Forum about 2 years ago, I would say, maybe a bit over that, just about a gap in the tourism industry. And what I was presenting at the time, I didn't feel like I had a good enough tangible solution. And there was just really a couple of us at the uni who had the opportunity to do that. So I wanted to do it well. And I was over at my friend Henry's house, and he broke down some of the barriers that had been created by the industry for him, because it's not, the barriers that are created by the person, it's the barriers that are created by the industry. And he's been blind since birth. He's got a beautiful guide dog, Yaz.
Wow.
And yeah, he kind of broke down some of the stories, and he's like, I just want more easily accessible information over audio or another form that's more accessible. And so then I wrote it up overnight and submitted it to the World Tourism Forum, and we actually ended up winning the World Tourism Forum Innovation Award about a year or two later. So that was in November of last year. We ended up winning that. But yeah, the more I spoke to people, I tried to find every solution. I tried to find everything not to do it. I was like, this product shouldn't need to exist. There must be something out there.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to be a startup founder, whatever.
Yeah.
But no, then the more I interviewed people, the more I spoke to people in 16 different countries in the world. And it was not isolated to a person, to an age group, to a country. It was really a problem for everybody.
Wow. So reluctant startup founder. So does that mean this is your first business?
It's my first.
Awesome. I love it. So how's it been? How are you enjoying the roller coaster?
To be honest, I love it. I think the reason that I didn't think I ever wanted to own a business is because I had like a 50-year plan from the age of 7. So I think that's, So I think I had that too. Yeah. why I didn't want to be a business owner.
Yeah.
But no, I really love it. I think the journey is incredible. I always surround myself with people smarter than me. And it means I learn more every single day than I think I could ever imagine. And throwing yourself in the deep end is the best way to learn. So I can't be anything but grateful.
Yeah, I love that philosophy. So I had a corporate career before starting a business, because I didn't know that you could start businesses. And as I reflect on it as well, I'm like, I would never have gotten the experiences that I have gotten over the last decade that I would have behind, a desk in a corporate office. I find in business, it's literally every day you're learning something new, faced with some kind of new giant problem that you need to overcome. It is pretty cool.
Yeah. And I think it also teaches you that, everything that's urgent isn't actually that urgent. It helps you prioritize, and it helps you kind of deal with stress really well.
Yeah.
I guess, actually be able to say, okay, I've got 500 burning bridges right now. What's the biggest burning bridge?
It's so true. It's really interesting because people were, I was talking to a few people about the pandemic, and they were like, oh my God. And I was like, well, to be honest, it's like, what else is new? There's always an issue that you have to overcome. Yeah. So if it wasn't going to be that, it would have been something else. So I love that philosophy, like prioritization, how to handle stress. Yeah. Running a business is like a good, like just life thing to do.
Yeah, no, I'm very grateful for the experience. And I'm really glad that the idea kind of just fell into my hands. I'm sad
Yeah.
that I have to be the one to do it and it doesn't just exist.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to be out of my job. Um, I, as much as I love what I do, I think this just should be something that exists already, and it should be all around the world, and it should be in everybody's hands. But nobody's doing that, so that's why we're doing it.
No, that's so cool. So Ben, what does that look like for you? So what are you and what are your team doing on a daily basis to, I guess, build up this record of audio files?
So we work with destination marketing organizations around Australia on a local, regional, and state level.
Yeah.
And so right now we're just in Australia. And so what we do is, either myself or our partnerships manager creates a partnership with either a state or a region. And then we go through all the admin with them and then send it off to Lisa, who's our head of content. And she has lived experience and she edits all of the content and makes it really, really sensory. So, one of the many things that we always talk about is how do you describe something to somebody who's never seen? And that's why we also have Lisa in it, because she's got that lived experience where she's able to pull the right information. But for me, I'm really bad at explaining things. And so it's like, okay, well, how do you describe coral to somebody who's never seen or touched coral?
Wow.
And, I think they described as the deflated mushroom with long cylinder stems that create little trees of the ocean.
Oh my God, that's so
cute,
cool.
right? So
yeah.
cute.
Wow.
And so that, it's shifting that typical marketing instead of being like, oh, come over and look at the view, go to the top of the mountain and embrace the view. It's like, okay, what's
that means
the view?
Nothing. Yeah.
What are you looking at? So it's actually predominantly changing the way that we even market destinations in the first place. And then once Lisa does that, then Ivan, who's our marketing and PR, he goes in and gets all the the one stock send image, the logos and everything, and loads it onto our back end, which then gets put on our app.
Wow, so cool. And so do you monetize through the tourism bodies or to the consumers that use your app?
No, so our users are for free and our customers are destinations, but they're also hotels, major event providers. Like we aim to be, one of the major sponsors of all major events like the Olympics, Commonwealth Games, World Cups, festivals, so that there's access to information everywhere.
Amazing. So then it obviously sounds like you've got a good workflow process team going on now. So what does that mean that your day-to-day role is in the business?
Oh, it's never the same. It's
you're still jack of all trades.
I've recently really turned more into the, investment legal aspect of it.
Fun.
All of the admin. And I think that's also because my team does everything that looks pretty, everything that's done well, everything that the world sees. That's not me. It's my team. And that's why whenever, like, let's say I win an award or I get nominated, it feels really wrong because I'm like, they're the people who are creating this and they're what makes the product good, not me. But no, I do. It's been in the last month or so really changing to investment and admin.
Amazing. So have you raised capital before, or is this the first time?
We've had a lot of grants and awards money that actually kept us going for our whole first year of operations, which is very, very lucky. But no, we're very lucky to have had a lot of that support early on, that we didn't need to raise capital at a time where we weren't ready.
Awesome.
And now we've just, taken in a large chunk of capital to go to just our pre-seed.
So cool. How did you find that process?
It was actually okay. Nice. I think we pulled from a lot of people who've been supporting us along the way. We have had a very, very dedicated board of advisors and a lot of people who I've asked for advice along the way, because I kind of came in knowing nothing, and I really feel like I'm actually able to kind of do it all alone now, but I still like having that bouncing board, and I send weekly, you know, updates to monthly updates to my advisors and ask for questions and help on things that I may not know how to do that they know how to do, because they've all been very, very successful in their careers. So really, once I opened it, I kind of closed it straight away.
Every person listening in hates you right now.
I know.
No,
it wasn't a large right? It was just going to get us through until we launch, because we've put a lot of time and effort in making sure that we've got profit and revenue coming in. Amazing. And making enough partnerships so that we're not having to be reliant on investors, especially going into an economic downturn.
And that is like sage advice. That is, I love, you know, I think two things that you just mentioned there. Firstly, the raise was easier or quicker because you had existing relationships and you'd kind of been taking people on the journey, and they know you, they trust you, they believe in what you're doing, which always makes it easier. But then not needing a raise, like actually focusing on the profitability of your business. Yeah, I mean, I think there's no better advice around right now than to be profitable.
Well, we did have to go back like a couple months ago and actually sit down for a whole month and restructure everything so that if we can't get any capital over the next couple of years, how are we going to be profitable and how are we going to survive if there's an economic crash? So no, we did take the advice that has been plastered everywhere. As I don't know how true or not true it's going to be, but it's better to be prepared than underprepared.
Absolutely.
But I definitely expect a kind of main raise that we would actually open publicly and do properly. I expect that to be a lot longer and a lot harder, and you know, we've allocated around like 7 months to open and close that. So I'm not expecting it to be like this again. This is just to get us through into our launch, which is on the 16th.
So cool. So that's imminent. How are you feeling?
Oh, feeling good. I'm glad it's en route.
Yeah.
You know, it's a content platform, so you can't launch it without content.
Exactly.
So we've been working with a lot of destinations, and you know, we've got 50 experiences coming in from Tourism Tasmania soon.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, which is really, really cool. And we've got we've got a lot of destinations. We've got, you know, Bundaberg Tourism, and I think we've got maybe 5 or maybe 6 regions in Queensland, and 5 or 6 in Victoria, and I think about 3 in South Australia, only 1 in New South Wales, but we are looking at growing it, and we've got so much content coming in the next couple weeks, and so we should be updating news stories every single week to the platform, and we've got a good enough runway now that we can actually launch and make sure it keeps coming.
Yeah.
Which is really the hardest part for us, which is we've got enough to launch, but we didn't have enough to keep coming. So that's really only a new development.
That's awesome. And look, couldn't have come at a better time by the sounds of things.
Yeah, no, it's been a long process. I think I try to stay as real as possible at every point, and to say it's been easy would be the understatement of the century. And I think we've had a really terrible couple months as well. So
let's whether you want to or not, let's go a little bit deeper on that, because so people that tune into Spark TV are usually, they're either the people who want to start a business who haven't taken the leap, or founders who are like in the trenches going, why did I do this? So what has, you know, transpired since you've, you know, had the idea and kind of fell into being a business owner? What challenges have you found, I don't know, maybe the most difficult to overcome?
Oh, wow. Okay. I think one of the many things that's going to always be a problem as you grow is finding enough time, a balance between your team and then also investment, for example. So I found myself a couple of weeks ago, almost completely, really for the first time since starting, realized I neglected the whole team aspect, because I was just so, I realized that, you know, we weren't going to make it to launch. And I was like, we got to go do something about this. And so I just went completely in the other direction of what I'd been doing and been like, okay, now to pull on every string I've ever pulled.
Yeah.
and completely neglected my team, and then realized that that was not something that I really ever want to do again. And so now we've had to implement a couple of things in, like, you know, at the start of every week, give everybody an update. Where are we at? And as we grow, I foresee that becoming a problem, but I always hope to be the best leader and leading with EQ throughout. But, you know, it's hard to be the person in many shoes, or whatever the saying is. I always get them wrong.
Wearing many shoes, many hats, any kind of outfit.
Any outfit, whatever. Too many jackets. I don't.
Too many jackets.
I think I foresee that as becoming a problem, but you know, also getting contracts signed with government.
Oh my God.
It's exhausting. It's just a lot of brain power.
Yeah, you have picked off a customer base that is notorious for taking a long time to do anything.
But I'm, you know, in saying that, I'm very lucky that all of the people who are on our app are also advocates and heroes for accessible tourism, and they want to be doing better, and they want this to be out in the market.
Yeah,
it's the people who are trying to turn, the people who aren't the heroes. They're the people who could be the heroes, but right now we're kind of in that limbo where they haven't really considered accessible tourism before. They know they should, but right now their priorities lie elsewhere. And that's where we've seen a big a lot of apprehension from. It's being like, well, how can I justify spending money on something that we actually don't have a strategy for, and we don't know if it's going to be successful? And I completely understand it. I completely understand it, but no, it's got its own, actually turning those from the original interaction to the end can take a really long time. And then when you get to the end, then it's like 3 months of procurement.
Yeah. Oh my God. So you're essentially, you've had to go through an education process. So because this is so new, you can't just sell it to somebody. You've actually got to educate them on the problem first.
Wow. Yeah, exactly. And you know, everyone's actually, I'm very lucky that the tourism industry is quite open-minded. They're happily, like, they're welcome to change. They care. It's an incredible industry to be in, because I think also the tourism industry facilitates young voices to be heard, unlike any other industry. And I think you see a lot of stigma in a lot of industries, not only just being female, but being young.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a 23-year-old founder, and you know, you're going to have your own. I often do not say that publicly because I know it's got its own like stigma and biases attached to it. But no,
I know, but I actually like that you did, because I think people will find any excuse to hold themselves back. So they'll pick on age, they'll pick either way, like, oh, you're too young, or you're too old, or you too.
Okay, I'm a young female in the accessibility space, so I'm a triple threat.
Which is why you're going to be a giant friggin' success. Totally. No, that's super cool. Did you find challenges? Obviously, you know, tourism got hit pretty hard in the last couple of years. Did that slow your progress, or didn't make an impact?
No, I think it really accelerated it, to be honest.
Cool.
I always say, if I think I came in with this a couple of years ago, I don't think it would have gone well at all.
Yeah.
The tourism industry wasn't ready to make these changes a couple of years ago. Everything.
So it's kind of giving people a kick up the bum almost.
Yeah, I think that up until really 2020, the same old tourism problems were occurring every single year. Nobody knew how to deal with them. You had over tourism, you know, you've got crowding, you've got how are you going to make this sustainable? How are you going to make it so that, but it was never accessibility. Even in my degree at uni, I never learned about accessibility as a part of, you know, the 3 pillars, like, you know, economic, environmental, social. It was like even the social and the environmental, it was never accessibility.
Yeah. Wow.
And so it wasn't taught, it wasn't a priority. And it wasn't until I really think the tourism industry crashed and burned that we saw a huge change to the tourism industry being like, shit, we can actually do things right. Excuse me. But, you know, we can actually do something right. We can how are we going to combat over tourism? How are we going to meet every single level that we haven't met before? And it was a couple of years ago when World Tourism Day was focusing on accessibility. That was a huge moment, because it hadn't been recognized before and people didn't even understand what it was. And so it's a real education journey for everybody to realize, okay, accessibility is not a ramp, it is not tactile indicators. Accessibility is a start to finish experience. They need to have, you know, people with disabilities should have the exact same experience that somebody else has. And I think there's a saying, I'm going to absolutely butcher it, but
perfect.
You know, it's something like diversity is everybody gets the exact same shoe, you know, and it was saying that equality and accepting and letting everybody be everybody is everyone gets their own perfectly fitted shoe and they get it all tailored to their needs, and so that everybody can have the same experience and feel just as happy at the end of it. And I think that's what tourism is shifting. It's not just physical infrastructure, it's the experience. Just because you can get into the coffee shop doesn't mean you're going to be able to drink coffee. And so I think, in saying that, a long-winded answer, it's really the first time I think the tourism industry has been ready for the change, and it accelerated it, saying, well, what can we fix? And this was one of the many things that, you know, people were ready to fix, because everybody wants more visitors. And when everybody realizes that, you know, people with a disability spend 2.8 times more than the average like sighted tourist, then, or, you know, spend 2.4 times more on rooms or whatever it is, they realize that it's not just about accessibility, it's actually the economic value they're providing is huge. And so just by making your destination accessible, you're going to get more revenue.
Wow. That's so cool. So will your platform cater beyond the audio experience? Like, is there a future plan for, you know, I guess, you know, you just mentioned, you know, there's so many different things in terms of accessibility that people need to think about. I know you sort of focusing on audio at the moment. Is there a plan to kind of shift that in the future, or is that the niche that you're going after?
No, we want to stick to audio, because right now everything else has a platform for whatever. We don't really have a tourism platform for audio or a storytelling platform. Yeah. Unless it's like a book, I guess, Audible or audiobooks. Yeah. But what we hope to do is if you create a product for and with the people who have the most access needs, and it's a universally designed product, and it's a product for everybody. Yeah. And that's something that I think a lot of startups are missing, is just because you've got a product does not mean it's a product for everybody. If you don't build it with accessibility first, then it can't be a product for everybody. Wow. And so what we're doing is we're integrating stuff now. Like, we've got transcript options for people who are hard of hearing. We're integrating a map integration right now, and we're hoping that the map integration that we're really hoping to put on is one that navigates you through wheelchair, like through ramps instead of stairs, cool. And can go to different speeds. So we're trying to make the product accessible from the get-go, and we've got voice search for people who are blind or who have limited mobility. And then one day it can just be a product for everybody, because it's just audio guides at the end of the day.
That's so cool. I love that. And then I assume world domination. So once you've kind of nailed Australia, will that be what the capital raise is for, or will you kind of target just Australia first? What's kind of that plan?
Well, you know, we want to completely build out Australia first. Yeah. But we're kind of on track to do that by like mid next year.
That's so cool.
Yeah, which is really, really cool. And it's really nice to see the world responding so positively to accessibility, because it's just so unheard of, right? To have this much support at this early on. Yeah. Really within 1 year of operations. And then after that, you know, once you can go to all of the destinations in Australia, at least I think we've got a goal of 70% where it's built out enough that you've got enough options. Yeah. So that's probably about 20 experiences per region.
Cool.
And And then once it's built out enough, we'll expand to New Zealand first and then to the US.
Wow,
and UK. Yeah. But as soon as we expand into Europe or Asia, then we need to find a way to do 9 different languages. And we're an audio content platform, which means we have to record everything in 9 voices. So we're holding off on that one for a little while.
Yeah, opens up the challenges just a little bit.
Yeah, but that's also accessibility, is having access to more languages so that everybody can listen to it. So it's a problem for down the line, but it's going to be one that we're going to have to tackle.
Yeah, no, and look, it's interesting, isn't it? I think the bigger you get, the more you grow. Challenges never go away; they just become bigger, you know. And there's so many different things to kind of think about. So your first, couple of years in, and your pre-launch, that's kind of like a similar stage to some people, and they might be thinking, okay, what do I need to know? So if you're at the start of your journey, what do you think that you would tell yourself? What kind of advice would you give yourself if you were just starting out? Don't do it. Don't do it.
Yeah, seriously, guys, it's tough out here. Don't do it.
Oh, funny.
No, I would say that before building a product, make sure that there's product market fit. That's one of the biggest. And I know I hear it a lot, and it was overused. The only reason I did it was because I got forced to do it, and because I was trying to solve a problem without having to solve it myself. But you see so many products go out to market, and they've built this thing, they haven't marketed it beforehand, and then they're like, oh, it's been a year and I haven't had any more customers, or we haven't developed it anymore, or people aren't using it right. And the same story comes up with all of them. It's like, okay, well, how was your user acquisition process, and what was the data based off of? And it was just like, well, I spoke to 5 or 10 people. But I don't think at any point you should ever stop learning. I still, I stop people who are blind on the street, and I'm like, hey, there's this, what do you think? Can you give me some advice?
That's amazing. I love that.
And it's gotten to the point where I know everybody now. And they're like, hi, Hailey. But no, I always try to ask for feedback, because you can never if you're building with your customers, they go, and not just building with your customers, but building with your users.
Yeah.
And often they're different. So I really think that is the most crucial thing that you can do when you're starting up a product, because going in there just assuming that it's going to succeed, that is the biggest reason why people fail.
Yeah.
But for us, even though we haven't launched yet, where we've got corporate, some of the largest corporate partners in Australia, we've got some of the largest organizations supporting us. We still go through Vision Australia or Blind Citizens Australia, and even guide dogs sometimes if we need advice on something. Even at the point where we feel like we're experts in the industry, we still have people who are more experts and have lived experience that we're speaking to every single day.
Yeah.
So I would say that's probably the biggest thing.
Yeah, and I think that you're spot on. The amount of people that spend, look, I'm actually guilty of it. I built things without, asking and think, this is the best idea ever. Let's build it. You waste so much time and money and resources building stuff without talking to customers. That is literally the best advice ever. So it was
also because I got somebody said to me, they were like, who said that? Who said this was a problem? And I was like, what do you mean? Of course it's a problem.
Yeah. You're like, the people that have the problem, they're the ones that are telling me.
I was like, how dare you say this is not a problem? And then they're like, okay, we'll get data for it then. It's like, okay. And then I did everything just to prove the person wrong. Nice. And he was like, you're making
good motivator.
He's like, yeah, you're making so many assumptions right now. And I was like, that is fair enough, but I'm angry about it.
Oh, that's awesome. So then, being a founder, do you have a life? Do you take time to look
Some
after you
weeks.
outside the business?
Yeah, sometimes it's hard because I do advocate for work-life balance. I actually got really sick last year because I didn't have much of a work-life balance.
Oh no.
And had a couple major surgeries.
Oh wow.
Just due to stress. And so I do try and be an advocate for work-life balance as much as I can. But to be honest, I always also stay true to myself, and I don't really have a work-life balance. So, you know, I would love to get to the point where I feel like I can do that. I don't feel like I can do that at this stage, but I feel like I am approaching it. And I did go away for a holiday about 3 months ago, and the team completely ran it. Completely ran it without, and I was worked one day of like the 7 days that I was away. So yeah, that was really nice. But no, I always go out for a walk in the middle of the day, or if I want to work at home, I work at home. If my employees want to work at home, they get to work home.
So it becomes like that micro self-care when you can't kind of do big things and you feel like you're kind of right in the thick of things at the moment, like taking those little moments to kind of break it up is probably
yeah. And even though it's work, a lot of my advisors who I catch up with or something, like we'll go out and we'll do something fun while we talk about work. And that's it cool. Kind of breaks it up a little bit because you get a little bit of life in there and you get a little bit of work in there.
Yeah, and it's always nice when you work with people that you like. It does make it a lot less like you're in the trenches grinding it out when you can actually have a board meeting over a wine, just
and our team does
dynamic.
And our team does game nights, which is kind of fun.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, which is like, and we don't talk about work at all, but it's not like really a rule. It's just that we don't want to talk about work. And that's fun. But no, I do try, and I know my team gets out and does fun things on the weekend. And our marketing and PR guy, he skydives like a lot.
What?
I know.
Oh my God.
And do little things here and there, but it is hard. It's very hard.
Yeah. No, but that's it. I just like that, you've just got to make the time for it. And even if it's not giant things, just making sure there's little things often in there just to keep things balanced.
And yeah, it is hard because you have to give up a lot, and like you do figure out a lot of friends are a lot more patient than other friends.
Hell yes.
Like, oh, it's Hailey, she's busy all the time. And some are just like, majority are probably just like, it's Hailey, but I'm sure there's a couple people who probably feel like you just got lost somewhere along the way. The friendship just kind of like slowly started to dwindle but that's also life. Some people are meant to be for moments, some people are meant to be forever. And I love and respect everybody, and I love what everybody's doing, and I'm very lucky to have a lot of friends in startups as well, because a lot of the time it's shared pain.
Yeah, absolutely. If you can surround yourself with people that understand what you're going through, I find that helps a lot. Like, I found that too, some friends for life, but I never talk about work with them because they have no fucking idea what I do.
Exactly.
But, but also sometimes that's amazing because then you just go and have a wine or whatever and you're not talking about work. So that's awesome.
Yeah, it's definitely important to have people who you can like deep dive like a problem with, and they're not in your work, but they're like, know your work life and they understand what it's like. But then it's so important to keep your friends and who have no idea what you do, right? I still don't know if some of my friends know what I do, really. They're like my biggest fans, but I honestly wonder sometimes.
I know, but it's so cool. Like, it's nice to have the different changes of pace depending on how you're feeling.
And it's also weird keeping friendships who, when you're in completely different areas, and in the startup world you get a gold medal for everything. Like you get so many awards and there's nominations for everything, and you don't know really when it's happened, what you're getting. And I think as like a friend of somebody in a startup, it can be quite demoralizing, because it's like, oh, my friend's getting awards here, left, right, center, but they're not in an industry where they give out gold medals at every corner.
Yeah. Oh my God. That is so funny. I never thought of that, but you are so right. There are so many different awards and conferences and bits and pieces.
There's something for everything, right?
Yeah.
And I don't want to undermine any of the awards, but it's also like a lot of industries do not give, like, they don't have awards because it's like a corporate workplace, or it's
totally
this or this, or they've just got like their annual end of year party or something, but it's all within the workplace. And so I'm sure, like, for some friends, they see what I'm doing and they're like, oh, well, like, we're living very different lives at 23.
Yeah. Oh,
but it's so not comparable, is it?
No, not at all. And it's, it's interesting because I feel like there are good things and bad things about the startup industry. I love that. I do love that, whatever you need, what conference you need, event you need, advice you need, someone will give it to you. Sometimes I think that we get bogged down in the hustle and the capital raising and the, the media and this and that, which I think detracts people from the sage advice of solve a problem for your customer and create a profitable business. Sometimes I think it's easy to get distracted by the fundamentals when there are so many sort of shiny things going on. But I think if you can keep that balance, then it's an awesome thing to be a part of.
Yeah, it's what we call at work the shiny object syndrome.
Yes.
And it says, and we've got a list that we review like every couple of months, like, okay, what's fun and what do we need to do? And I think at the start I was very much on the win awards, thrive, survive, et cetera, et cetera. And really within the last 6 months, I've just, like, unless somebody kind of nominates us for something, or it would be beneficial if we can find a tangible impact that's going to be beneficial for our business, we won't apply for it. And that's the same with everything. We don't go to a conference if we're going to lose a day and it's not going to be beneficial for us. We don't apply for an award if it's going to take X amount of time for like a piece of paper that we don't gain anything from. Or we have had to completely knuckle down, and we, unfortunately, we've got a great story. And unfortunately, I'm a young female founder in accessibility. So I'll often, a lot of news channels would like to cover, but I've just kind of pushed everything back to launch. I was like, hey, can you please cover when we launch? So for the last 6 months, I've really had to just turn down everything. So that we can just focus on getting our product into market. And then I think that's when we can maybe focus on that.
Yeah.
But it is what you said. It's just very essential to not lose sight of what you're building and get caught up in the glam and glitz of all of it.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, kind of, I guess we're putting all the puzzle pieces together here, but even with when you're in build business mode, it is hard to take a break and look after yourself. So if you're kind of piling on top of things, events, awards, interviews, blah, 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 that have no direct correlation to your business growing, then it's just too much, it's just actually too much stress for no outcome. So I actually think that's amazing advice. I did that. I had to do that a couple of times, just go because again, I was in tech. I was a tech female founder when there weren't a lot of tech female founders, and I just used to get rolled out. You just got rolled out onto all of these panels, and I was so exhausted. And I was like, hang on a second, I'm just helping you guys and ticking your boxes. And I'm like, this isn't helping my business at all. So I kind of had to draw the line in the sand and start to get very picky about what I did as well. I think that's awesome advice.
Yeah, and it was advice that I received. It was like, one of my advisors said, I won an award. I was like, oh my God, I won this award. How cool is that? And he was like, okay, and how's the business?
Yeah,
and I was like,
oh shit. Way to kill my vibe, man.
I was like, evidently still not launched, but thank you. And then after that, I was just like, okay, we really need to knuckle down. We need to get the product into market, and we really need to make sure that we've got enough content flowing. So yeah, I heard a little bit, but
sometimes that's how we learn.
But no, it was one of the best, and I would give everybody the same advice: is if it takes more time than what you're going to get out of it, then you should not be doing it. If it's a grant that you're like, okay, I'm going to get $10,000 this grant, it's going to take me 2 days. How much is your time worth in that 2 days? How much would you be getting paid in that time? And how many resources are you going to have to pull to do that? And then, is that worth your time? Is that what you should be spending it on? Or even for an award, a lot of the time there's no monetary value that comes with it. It's just the recognition. Is that recognition going to boost your company? So I know that one of the awards that I had recently applied to is with the destination marketing organization of somebody that we want to work with. And so I'm hoping that we can be a finalist in that. And then hopefully it's something that we could actually continue to work with them in the future. And for me, I saw that as a really tangible goal, that if we do become a finalist, that's something that we can maybe work together on in the future if they're interested.
Yeah, so it's totally strategic.
Yeah, or this award is really good in the tourism industry, or this award is really good in the accessibility space. And it gives you a little bit of extra, value or whatever it is. Yeah. But then when it's just something that maybe isn't going to, there's a lot of smaller awards, or a lot of even accelerators is the one that I've had to pull the plug on. All of them. I did 2 accelerators, and I don't know why I did 2. I should have just done 1. Not saying that the value of either of them were less or more than the other, but it was more a lot of time in a week goes towards spending time at accelerators. And I'm very glad that I did both, because one was specialized in the accessibility space and one was specialized in just the startup world when I was starting out. And so I don't regret it, but I had them one after another. And it meant that only until about a month or 2 ago, I had 5 full days where I had it to myself. With one of them, it was 1 whole day. And the next one, it was every morning. And it was just I was losing so much time doing these things that I don't actually know if it was a smart move for our business. Even though I learned so much, I just felt I was spending a lot of time doing elsewhere, because one started the day before the other one finished. And so I didn't really have that time to ever recover and recuperate, and it really took it out of me. And I got COVID at the first week.
Oh my God.
And the first week, and then I was so sick on the last week, and I think it showed, because I was just so run down. I didn't have any time for myself. Any of the extra time was spent towards the accelerators. And so it is something I think people need to look at and think, okay, how much time do I have? Is this going to be smart for our business? And while I still do think that both of them are smart for our business, I kind of wish they were a year apart.
Yeah, no, and you're exactly right. You have to make that calculation and balance anything that you do in your day, whether it's an award, an accelerator, even later down the track, as a leader, what you delegate to other people, if you're a solo founder who doesn't have a team yet, you're doing kind of everything plus all of these other things. So when you do start to bring people in, kind of really being honest with yourself about what value you bring to the table and getting that off your plate, so that you as the founder can be working on the most high value things that are actually going to grow the business.
Yeah, and it's also about letting go. I had to figure that out.
That's hard. It's so hard.
It is. And to be honest, I learned to let go pretty quickly when I realized that what everybody was creating was better than what I was.
Yeah. That always helps. Always helps.
I was again, that was another hard moment. It was hard. It was a hard pill to swallow.
But a good lesson to learn, because that's, you've said it a couple of times, surround yourself with people who are better, smarter, more specialized in different areas. I think founders are probably tend to be control freaks. But you're right, the quicker you learn to let go, the more things do actually accelerate and get better, and you can do the stuff that you're really good at.
Yeah, absolutely. And you still find yourself everybody finds themselves tripping up, like, oh, how's this going, and then say, okay, no, just let it be done. Yeah, let it get done. It's going to get done. I've got an incredible team. It's always going to get done. They're incredible people. There's no reason, and like even better workers, and all of them are more intelligent than I. So, I just trust them with I wholeheartedly trust them with whatever I give them.
That's an incredible position to be in.
Yeah, but it's like a highly curated team.
Yes. Well, and that's, that in and of itself, like hiring is such a huge challenge for people, finding the right talent, making sure they have the right skills, making sure the culture works. Team is like literally a whole nother ball game. It's a whole nother podcast in that.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, the onboarding process is so important, and it's something that like is neglected a lot as well.
Totally. It's, it's so easy to have people come in and you kind of go, oh, I'll just let them sink or swim. And because you kind of do have those moments of, oh, I've still got to get my stuff done. And, I'm trying to bring them in to take the workload off. But if you don't invest that time up front, you'll end up investing in it at some point when they're not quite getting it or whatever it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I found the difference because I onboarded every single one of my team members differently. So I kind of wanted to see
that's cool.
But one of the weeks I had one of my employees start was one of the craziest weeks. I don't know what I was thinking getting, it was just the wrong week for them to start in my eyes, because I didn't have the time to give. Luckily he's very similar to me. And so I remember this was like one of my moments that I cracked, and I had no reason why I should have. But I just remember I gave him, I have a little document. It's like, what are we? Who are we? Where do we want to be? Who are the key people? Who are the advisors? Who are our developers? Who are, who is everybody in the company? What are their emails? Yeah. Who do you contact if this? Who do you contact if this? If there's a problem with the team, contact me. If there's a problem with me, contact this person. All of it. But I hadn't actually summarized what I needed to be done. And I remember him asking me a question, and I was like, I was in a rush. I was out the door because it was late for a meeting that I had to run to. And I just remember going, I don't know, figure it out, And I remember thinking, the whole walk, I just thought,
yes,
that was not good. And I called him, and I was like, hi, really sorry. This person is this person, and if you could email them this, that would be great.
No, yeah.
And I'm really, really sorry that I just spoke to you that way, because that will never happen again, and it hasn't. But I don't think he took it to heart or anything. He's like me. He's like, okay, I'll figure it out.
Yeah, all right. Yes.
It is easy. If you don't actually spend your time onboarding, then they're not going to know what they're doing. They're not going to go who's who. They're not going to know the key stuff that you're meant to know. Yeah. Because you haven't taught it to them. That's the reason they don't know it. Yeah. It's not because they don't know. It's because of you. So very, very important process.
Oh my God, you're spot on. People, you just can't expect people to walk into your company and know all of the things.
Everything, right?
You need to empower people to be able to figure it out themselves. And that only happens, unfortunately, by sitting down and taking that time. Yeah, I learned that the hard way too. Yeah. I was like, surely you're just like me and you're just going to be awesome.
Realizing that you're the problem is not very nice, is it?
No, it's not. It's not. I've realized that far too many times.
But being open about it and asking, I've even asked my employees sometimes. It doesn't feel nice getting that feedback, but then if you just apply it, then everything gets better.
Totally. Yeah. And that's the thing, is the quicker you can learn to kind of suck it up a little bit and take the feedback on, the quicker that everyone just gets over everything and moves on and things get better.
Removing emotion.
Yes.
Removing emotion to something that doesn't need to be emotional.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's very interesting. It's a very interesting journey, and you learn a lot and you make a lot of mistakes. And I think if you've got people who are there as your heroes in the company, they love you, they support you, they believe in what you're doing and what we're doing together, then these are the people who are going to, support you. Just in you're never going to have a problem with them. And you have moments that are really extra bad in business, and even having to let people go is a terrible experience.
Yeah, it's never fun. It's literally never fun.
It's not fun at all. But as long as you keep the doors open with them, because they may not be right for a role, they may not be, but they may be perfect somewhere else, or maybe they just didn't have the time to give if they're on a part-time role, or it's not a fun experience. But what I found is I always put everybody when they start on 3 months just as a contractor. And I put them on a project as a contractor and say, hey, this is what we're going to work on and this is what we're going to achieve. And then from that, you're able to make a decision. And you haven't given away any equity, you haven't sold yourself for 3 years, 4 years, and you can together figure out if they're right for the role.
That's super cool. I love that approach.
Yeah. And even I've had somebody who's oh, I don't think I'm right for this role. I don't think I'm the best person for this role.
That's awesome. Self-select out. Great.
Yeah. And I remember feeling really happy with that, because I was I need you to be honest. Do you feel and it's by keeping that open relationship and checking in at different points, it's really creates a good environment, and just lets people make sure that they're I think people get very comfortable in organizations.
Oh yes. And that's kind of the difference between corporate world and startup world.
And I feel people don't need to get comfortable. And even I've had an intern say I really want to stay on, and I was I actually want you to leave. You're my favorite intern I've ever had, but I want you to leave and I want you to go get experience elsewhere, because I reckon we've capped your knowledge.
Yeah.
For what we can provide you with, you need to have a higher level of we don't have anything. We can't
give you what you need.
I'm I would love to have you on. I would love to give you there, but I think they need to go off and grow elsewhere, because I didn't have somebody above them who could teach them, and I didn't have that information.
Yeah. And that's amazing. If you still nurture that relationship, there's no reason why they can't go off, get more experience, grow themselves, and then they slot into a role that works in the future.
Exactly. And even one of the feedbacks that one of my interns said is I would have loved to have somebody like Ivan, who's marketing and PR, come in earlier in the internship, because he only came halfway through. And he was because I learned a lot from him, but I was kind of on my own before that.
Nice.
Because I'm bad at marketing. So it is good feedback, and it's always good to help people learn and grow, and give them the next step up, but also encourage them to go out of their comfort zone. And that's what goes with our employees. If this isn't what you love, then don't do it. Go find what you love, because I'm doing what I love.
Yeah.
You do what you love. And when the role opens, because you can love a company, but you may not love your role.
Yes. That's awesome. I love it. Well, you have been absolutely incredible. Thank you so much for spending your time and sharing your wisdom and stories with the Spark community. I couldn't be more grateful to have you on the show.
Oh, thank you so much. And it's great to hear some of the other founders' stories as well. I've been listening to them on my walks recently.
Yes. Oh my God, that's so cool.
So no, it's been really nice to, listen to a lot of strong females as well in the industry, because it's hard to find. And no, I'm very, very proud of strong females that come out of this.
Yeah, awesome. I love it.